Roots of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Root of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E. Today's episode 59 of the podcast. So if you are new, welcome. And if you are a regular here, thank you so much for tuning in. It's always great to have our usual listeners come back. And it's also even better to hear from you, either on our social media platforms or by leaving a review and rating the show on your streaming platform. Now, if you're listening currently right now, that's you. If you're listening on an Apple podcast service, please just take this time to rate and review the show. It goes a really long way into putting us onto the charts so that other people can actually get to know more about the show. And we want other people to get to know the show and for them to hear all of these amazing Africans in STEM. Speaking of an amazing African in STEM, my guest today is Raphael Onuku, who is originally from Nigeria, and he's also based there. He's affiliated with the University of Nigeria, and he is a pharmacist and computational chemist. In this episode, we learn a very inspiring story about his desire for getting an education and how he actually got into the field of science. In fact, Raphael tells us that growing up, he actually wanted to be a lawyer, but that changed when he got exposed into the world of pharmaceutical chemistry. Currently, that's what he's doing. His research involves working with neglected tropical diseases such as malaria and TB that are common in developing regions of the world. We learn about the importance of the scientific research and why he picked this particular field. Now, it's hard to run away during this climate to not talk about COVID-19, right? So we actually learned that Raphael is also doing some research on the side to provide some useful contributions towards researching this virus. He is researching some African medicinal compounds or isolates to study their effect on their virus strain. Get some pretty interesting information on this particular topic. And we also talk about the importance of African researchers contributing their research to this pandemic. Join us to hear about all of this and so much more. Let's go. Hi, Raphael. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Anne with the E. Thank you so much.
Thank you for accepting my invite and for coming to chat with us today. I'm really excited to hear more about you and everything that you do. So to just kick things off, please give us a brief introduction. Who is Raphael? Where are you based? What are you currently doing, etc.?
Okay, wow. So Anne with the E. First of all, before I talk about myself, I want to very much appreciate the invitation. I think it means a lot to me. And I believe it means a lot to everyone else, especially we Africans involved in STEM. So I'm Raphael, just like you said, Raphael Onuku, and I'm from Nigeria, specifically from Enugu State. That's one of the states in the eastern part of Nigeria. And I'm affiliated to the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, one of the most autonomous universities you can find in the country. And also, I'm more like focused on working with the Department of Pharmaceutical and Medicinal Chemistry at the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, same university.
Thank you. That's really lovely. We're going to get into everything that you do beforehand. But, as the show goes, as the listeners know, we love to know you away from the science quickly. Or rather, in this case, we want to know where you're from. So, for people who are not aware, Nigeria is one of the largest economies in Africa, right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty huge, and a lot of people want to visit. So I've never been. I'd love to go one day when the world is open, post-corona.
Yeah, I guess. I understand. Post-corona. we all thought 2021 was going to be post-corona, but well, we started good, I guess.
Oh, but I don't know. We'll see. Well, when that happens, I want to know, where, if you are my tour guide of Nigeria, and we could go anywhere in Nigeria, where would you be and why?
Okay. First of all, I would say I would invite you, or I would love you to come to Nsukka. Nsukka is more like a sub-region of Enugu State, where I'm from, and that is where the University of Nigeria is currently situated. So, why Nsukka? Nsukka is a home full of culture. The people are very nice, and the environment, it has lots of hills. So you could go hiking. You could, in fact, each of the hills that you climb, when you get to the top, you feel like you are at the top already. So it's one of the places I would like to have you be in when you come to the country. Also, aside from Nsukka, you must have heard of Lagos because of its industrial. Yeah, everybody knows Lagos. So it's because of its industrial effect in the African economy. Lagos is a very good place. I've been to Lagos. In fact, I spent some part of my life in Lagos, and it's a very good place for you to be in. And there's a lot of if you like social events, you get to enjoy yourself while in Lagos. Then also right now I'm currently in Akwa Ibom State, another state that's it's a state in the south region of the country, and they have this beach known as Ibuno Beach. Very fine beach. In fact, if you just want to relieve yourself of the stress of the world around you, just get yourself at Ibino Beach and you'll feel great. In fact, you feel refreshed again. So I think these places are quite nice. Then Abuja is there as well. So Abuja has its hills, so they are good. So these are the places I would want you to be at first. There are other places in Nigeria, but these places are very, 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 very special to me in particular.
Oh, fantastic. I'm already there. I'm like imagining myself. Like, when can I come? When can I come? The Nigerian tourism department should hire you, because I think me and probably other people who are listening are like, oh man, this sounds really nice. I think, like you said already, that most people know Lagos. So it's really cool that you're introducing us to all these other different places. And I'm so excited to one day, or when I'm there, I'm going to be like, hey, Raphael, I made it.
Yeah, that would be very cool to have you here. Post-corona as well.
Post-corona. I'll be like, I made it. You said there's this place. So yeah, I'm putting it out there that I'll let you know when I get there, hopefully.
And one particular thing about Nsukka that I forgot to mention is they have a particular food known as Okpa.
Okay.
I don't know if you can make that pronunciation. Okpa. OKPA. Yeah. OKPA. Okpa. So more like the K is silent. So but it looks like as if the K comes after the P. But actually the K comes before the P. So Okpa. You understand?
Okay.
So
what's in it? What is it?
You know Bambara nuts?
Yes.
Yeah, they use Bambara nuts to make it very, very good. In fact, in Nigeria, in the whole Nigeria, the best Okpa you can get is Nsukka Okpa.
Okay.
So it's
so
something
it's just Bambara nuts, or it's something else?
Bambara nut, oil, palm oil, then just Bambara nuts. Basically, just Bambara nuts. They also add oil. Then some people, like my mom, she adds bitter leaf to eat. That is, if you get running stomach after eating Bambara nut, so once they add that bitter leaf, you don't get any running stomach after eating it. So it's a very delicious meal. And you can take it with Coke.
Uh-huh.
You know, most maybe if you just check Google, you'll see Google Okpa and Coke. You understand? So you get a lot of result about it. Even while I was in school, we were asked, and biochemistry lecturer in my second year, he had to set it as one of our question. As a question, it was like, draw the pathway of Coke and Okpa.
Yeah, I just saw it now. I've Googled it.
Yeah, you see, right. So the pathway of Coke and Okpa. The reason being that when some persons after eating Okpa, they feel drowsy, they feel like they want to sleep. You get? So now taking Coke, the contents of Coke, I think caffeine counteracts the effect of the drowsiness of the Okpa. So basically you're drawing the pathway of caffeine in the body, and also the content of Coke. I think I've forgotten. It's been a very long time, so around 2012. But it's a very good practical question by Professor Nwodo of Biochemistry Department.
I love it. The science and the food. Oh man.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
It's amazing.
It sounds amazing. And I just looked it up. And anybody else who's listening, Google it. It's OKPA.
OKPA.
And Coke, yeah. And the images show it very clearly. So I think that's quite interesting that you said that it makes you sleepy, but then the Coke just comes in with that caffeine to just counteract it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. So, okay, Nigeria, I'm going to put it on my wish list, and hopefully sooner rather than later, I am there. I am there. And thank you for that. You see, you're a wonderful tour guide. I knew that you'd be the best person to ask.
Well, I'll try my best when you finally come here. Just ring me.
You should know, because now you gave me the food, and you gave me the sites and the food, and I love food. We spoke about it off air, so I am there.
Yeah.
I'm definitely there. Oh man! So we touched a little bit on the science with the food and the biochemistry, and you mentioned that you are in the sciences, the pharmacy side. So before you got to where you are, Raphael, I want to know, what were some of the influences? How did you end up in this field? Like, give us the backstory, because I think that's always quite interesting for everybody.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the question. First of all, before I got interested in science, how did I get interested in being educated? Because I see education as a privilege, because not so many persons have the opportunity of being educated. So my mom is from a polygamous home, and my grandfather, that's my maternal grandfather, he had about 3 wives. One is late right now, so two is left. My grandmother from my maternal side, and my step grandmother. So now, back then, those days, it's been like, I can't remember, maybe 1970s, or I can't remember when, but back then, education is not really taken so serious around. And what people do then is send their children to either go do menial jobs, or the ladies, they send the ladies to, some people send their girls to go into prostitution and make funds for the family. So
okay.
So on one of the occasion, one of the big ladies in town, in quotes, who came back, was requesting for my mom to follow her into the city to go and start up the whole prostitution stuff. So she spoke to my grandma. That's my maternal grandma, and my maternal grandma bought the idea, because everybody then was having their daughters build homes for them and all that. So, but my mom loved education so much. She wanted to go to school. She wanted to reach the apex, if there is any, of education. But her mother refused. So my mom couldn't continue. She stopped in her junior secondary school. And she couldn't further. So I think it was after then that she met my dad and they got married. So basically, when she told me the whole story about her interest wanting to go to school and reach the apex, if there is any, and she couldn't, and she was denied because she was asked to go and do something she never wanted to do and something that is against her belief or what she wants to do, it inspired me to also dream of myself. It also inspired me to, each time I think of what she went through, because every time she remembers there are some other persons that was in her class then, that the parents never bought the idea, who got to be educated very well, went to higher institution. She feels bad for herself and all those things. So I just told her that one day I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to be a graduate. And I think I've fulfilled that. And I renewed my promise while I was an undergraduate. I told her one day, not just me, not just my siblings, one day you're also going to be a graduate. And we're on the process. So right now, what made me choose science, or what made me have interest in science, was as I was growing up, I was very much fascinated by how the world works around us. And I had so many questions. I was very enthusiastic. I was like, why is the sky blue? Why is it not red? Why is it not black? So when my uncle died, my father's immediate younger brother, when he died, I was like, why do human beings die? Why do they just suddenly die? What are human beings really made of? And so when I got some answers to these things, I always felt the urgency to explain everything I learned to others as well. And, it's quite unfortunate some are not actually willing to hear me say them. And basically everything around us, what I see, what I smell, what I hear, what I taste, touch, it involves chemistry. And while in secondary school, I got to know about chemistry and also about chemicals. So I got to know about thousands of chemical reactions that happen in our body when we smell just an ordinary sunflower. But I was really surprised when I learned of all that in secondary school. And I also got to know that there are scientists that are known as pharmaceutical chemists who could handle these reactions and even develop drugs that could save millions of lives worldwide. And that was how I became a scientist. Initially, in my junior secondary school, I thought I was going to be a lawyer.
Okay.
So I thought I was going to be a lawyer. But while growing up, after my junior secondary school, I got to start asking these questions. And that was how I became who I am today, a pharmaceutical chemist and a pharmacist, but especially interested in pharmaceutical chemistry.
Wow, what a story. First things first, the story of your mother. That is absolutely, it's sad that it had to happen like that. And I think it's something that's not spoken about, because I think many of our parents, when they were younger at that time, especially being a woman, it was not seen to be important to study. Yeah. And I think you said it so well. It's a privilege. I think even now it's still a privilege. It might seem a little bit, it might seem like, okay, everybody can go to school, but there's still so many things that a lot of people, boys and girls, are unable to, because like you said, that your mom had to go out and support her family, or rather it was seen that the family, she needed to support her family. family. And that is the case for many young people, young Africans, or even in other parts of the world. So it's quite amazing that when she had you, she instilled that thing that, you need to have an education. And I love how you are saying that you're in the process of getting her to be a graduate. So she's also going to apply?
Like I said, the process. While I was in school, I just had to promise her that I'll do as much as I can to make sure that she also gets the education, because she's smart. Really, my mom is smart. So
that's really amazing that, you are helping your mom fulfill this goal, that, she helped you fulfill yours and she motivated. So it's really lovely to see this interplay, and I wish her all of the best. That's quite inspirational. And I think it goes to show even more so that you're never too old to learn and to go after your dreams. And it's really nice that you, as her children, are supporting her through this journey, which is absolutely amazing. And I'm sure it's gonna happen, like without a doubt, and there'll be an additional graduate in your family.
Thank you, Anne.
You spoke to us about how when you were growing up, you said you initially thought you'd be a lawyer, but then of course your interest in pharmaceutical chemistry happened in terms of developing these really these drugs to help people. And currently you are doing just that. You are actually working on your research rather is focused on neglected tropical diseases, right? Such as malaria, which is a human parasitic disease.
Yes.
So I want you to explain to us firstly, what these neglected tropical diseases are and why are they neglected, and then you can get us into more about specifically what you're doing.
So the NTDs, that's also known as neglected tropical diseases, they're like different groups of tropical infections that are very much common in low-income countries or populations, especially the developing regions such as Africa, Asia, and also the Americas, but most prominently in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. So example is the malaria, the tuberculosis, and like I said, it's most common in low-income populations, and they lead to a lot of diseases such as trypanosomiasis, chikungunya, and a whole lot of them. They're up to 13. So I picked an interest in neglected tropical diseases because I observed that most research that is being done by the Western world are research that are in line with other diseases such as HIV, cancer, and etc. So looking at these neglected tropical diseases, Africa or sub-Saharan Africa, being a low-income country, find it very difficult to combat these diseases. Even malaria, to this extent, we're still fighting malaria in Africa, trying to combat malaria in Africa. Some countries, such as Asia and Americas, have been able to curb certain of these diseases, but Africa is yet to do theirs. So I developed an interest in neglected tropical diseases because of the fact that just like it sounds, it is neglected, and it's mostly for the tropical regions.
And so most of the research by the Western countries or Asia is focused on these other diseases. And like you said, that in Africa, it's prevalent. I know, for example, I'm from Malawi, right? So when I go back home, because now I'm currently in South Africa, when I go back home, I always have to either take an anti-malaria shot or something, because in Malawi it's a huge problem. Whereas here in South Africa, malaria is like, what? It's not a problem here. So it's quite, you see that in different parts of Africa, even there are some who might have gotten a handle of it, but in other parts, it's really, people die from this disease.
People die a whole lot.
So I think it's really important that the work is currently being done, especially for these African countries. So with that being said, what are you currently working on?
Okay, so I have some research ongoing right now. Since last year, with the current trend in pandemic, everybody is currently trying to contribute their quota to solving or initiating a solution to the pandemic, that's the COVID-19. So I am of recent, I've been working on trying to some of these African medicinal compounds or isolates from African medicinal plants. I've been trying to study their effects on the viral strain of COVID-19, that's SARS-CoV-2. So using their target enzyme, their main protease enzyme. So that's what I've been working on so far. So and also I've been also, like I said, one of the neglected tropical diseases is trypanosomiasis, which causes sleeping sickness. So there are drugs that are being used, but most times some of these drugs, the resistance is being developed. So I'm also working on screening some compounds. One of my colleagues who did his PhD in Germany, he has these compounds that has anti-helmintic effects, and we're trying to screen using computational tools to find out the rate to which the compounds, about 3 of them, inhibits the target site of the trypanosome enzyme.
Okay, that's very interesting. You mentioned something in the first part of your answer that, due to this whole COVID pandemic, I think most scientists now are trying to, like you said, put in their quota to contribute to some research on this virus. Firstly, what I wanted to know is, with that work where now there's this hype rather on COVID-19, rightfully so. How does that have, where you kind of now like, oh no, now I have to leave my research and do this. Is that a good or bad thing, in terms of you as a scientist?
It's more like me, like I told you, it's all about contributing to what is being done, because this is like a current trend. This is what is happening right now. And any idea can be so helpful, especially when published. So not so many persons try to look at what African medicinal plants can do. Okay, because why? Because they are not in Africa. They are not in Africa, and they don't know what we have. And most people in Africa do not even think of doing something like that, because I for once believe that as an African, we are blessed. We've got a lot of good things. The only problem we have is that they are not being explored. So I feel like, let me just exploit this some of these African isolated compounds from African plants. So I think I see it as something positive, because while doing this study, we actually noticed that some of these natural products or the isolated compounds tend to inhibit the main protease more than already known antivirals.
Wow.
Okay, so basically a lot of things will be done. We cannot come and say, okay, fine, we've done a computational study and this is what it says, therefore it is supreme. No, but at least it gives us an idea And also, we're able to find out certain subunits or certain amino acids that the compound have been able to interact with, leading to inhibition to some extent. So these ideas, despite the fact that there are publications that have been able to say these amino acids and these amino acids are necessary for inhibition of this protease, we're also able to find out that our own compounds were able to interact with other amino acids that are present in the main protease enzyme and was also able to cause inhibition. So I believe that if they look at it, if there are some modifications or structural modifications that can be done, let's say if the Western world look at their own structure and what they are working with, they could make a structural modification and see if with the inhibition of these amino acids, if it is going to also be helpful for them, while we towards in this region we also try out our own. So it goes a long way. I know vaccines are very important, and we may not be able to deal with vaccines over here, but we have to do the little we can to also contribute. I believe that I believe that in the onset of HIV, a lot of people were trying to just try out what they have. Even I still believe that Africans have not been able to fully exhaust what they are blessed with to find out if there are inhibitions or if there are ways that our compounds that we have here can be able to attenuate or inhibit enzymes, because basically all these things are enzymes. We have the protease enzyme, we have the integrase enzyme, and these enzymes play roles in the multiplication of the viral proteins or the viral structure. So if these enzymes are inhibited, if these enzymes processes are cut off, of course they'll cease to exist. So that's exactly why I see what I'm doing or what we are doing as being a positive contribution because of the current trend, so that at least if the world gets to see what we do, they can be able to say, okay, fine, maybe let us see a way we can be able to get these guys' ideas and probably work on it. But it doesn't still stop me. Like I said, I'm working on. I can never change working on neglected tropical diseases because I know it is neglected. And people are dying every day. A lot of places in the world are dying every day, focusing their research on things that they regard as bigger. Lymphatic filariasis, people are dying every day from so many soil transmitted illnesses. People are dying every day. So my younger brother, when we were small, my younger brother, he once suffered from schistosomiasis. Schistosomiasis is also one of the neglected tropical diseases, whereby you notice that people start, it affects the bladder, they start urinating blood. You understand? So I each time I remember then, even though he got treatment, but each time I remember watching my younger brother pass out blood that is with urine, I get so I don't know, I just feel so bad for so many persons that I don't know out there that suffer from the same thing. Like there are drugs, praziquantel, that are being used to treat individuals with obesity. But one thing is I cannot prevent reinfection. So, so that's why I see working on COVID-19 as being something positive, because at least it's going to contribute something positive to the world on the current trend.
You're absolutely right. And I'm learning so much with what you said. It can be definitely a positive thing. And how you said that sometimes right here in Africa, we have these natural compounds, like you said, that, back in the day, they were using them to treat all sorts of ailments. And I think it's really important to look at all of these things. And I think even now during when COVID-19, especially in the first wave, I know there's a whole lot of talk of like how here in Africa we've got all of these amazing things, these plants that we can use to treat it. They've all got different names, of course, because locally we all have got different names of treating these things. So I think it's really important that you are looking at that specifically. And, eventually maybe the West will take notice and be like, okay, they're onto something. Or I don't know what needs to be done for us, maybe not to wait for the West to be like, oh, well done, Africa, you found something. Okay, let's use it. I don't know what needs to be done where we can just do things on our own and it just gets that recognition where it doesn't need to come from the West. But of course, it's a pity because that's where most of the money is, where the funding is, where everything is. So it's a double-edged sword that we do still need them. But I love the fact that, like you said, that you're doing this work and it's going to be put out there and it can be useful in some way, somehow. But it's also really good that even though this trend is here, you are still not letting go of your sole research and your sole purpose, because like you've already mentioned, it's got a sort of a personal feel to it, right, with your brother. That being said, I wanted to ask you, what sort of impact do you hope your research, in particular with the neglected tropical diseases, do you hope to achieve, I don't know, in a couple of years' time? That, okay, I've spent most of my career working on this. Okay. What is the dream?
The most important dream is to see, I know that the reason why we are most affected by neglected tropical diseases is because of the low income of our countries, and a lot of other things are involved too, primary health care, public health stuff, and so many things. But because of the fact that we started noticing that some of these neglected tropical diseases are becoming resistant to drugs that are currently being used for its treatment, my most important interest, or what I plan to achieve, is to develop more compounds or more drugs that could be used in the treatment of these diseases in such a way that even if they develop resistance to already existing drugs, we could have alternative drugs that could also be used, or alternative compounds that could also be used in their treatment. Because if we dwell on, let's say, for instance, the praziquantel that is being used in treatment of schistosomiasis, when these organisms develop so much resistance to praziquantel, what are the alternative antibiotics that we're going to use? I mean, anti-helminths that we're going to use? None. So that is why it is very much important. And I see a world where tomorrow it will be said that, okay, alternative drugs have been provided for this, in as much as I wish every day that Africa or sub-Saharan Africa comes out of its own poverty and also from a lot of challenges it's having. I also wish that we also have alternatives, and not just sub-Saharan Africa. We have Asia and we have other regions too that have these neglected tropical diseases from time to time.
No, that's a wonderful dream, and I hope you can live it out, because like you said, that resistance to all these drugs happens and then we're stuck. But I think that's why we have people who have to be working, and hopefully Africa, I don't know, we've got a lot of amazing things that are going on, and amazing brains, amazing minds who are working on these really amazing things. It's just a pity that we've got the poverty issue that is holding us.
Corruption and lots of challenges.
Corruption.
We don't have to overlook that, because it's one of the reasons why we are poor today, because most of our leaders are corrupt. and they don't think about how to go ahead to develop Africa. What they just want to feed their pocket, continuously feed their pocket. And it's affecting the whole world. It's affecting the common man. So I think corruption is one of the reasons why we are poor so far.
No, I hear you. And I don't know if in this lifetime that will change. But money builds greed. And once you get there, you might think it's very few people who get there and do what they promise to do, because sometimes when the money comes in, it gets a little bit confusing. You start to be maybe I don't have to. If I can do this, I can do this. And I'm not saying that there aren't good people out there who can do it, but it's unfortunate that it's actually fewer people. So back to you now. You have this research where you are researching these NTDs. You are also researching possibly some work on COVID-19, and you're also working at the hospital as a pharmacist, which we must not forget to mention. You have a lot going on, and I'm sure you have a family as well. Your family, how do you balance it? How do you get that time where you can balance, the usual slogan, work-life balance? How do you do it? How do you cope?
Like you said, it's something that one has to really think about. Seriously speaking, I do try as much as I can to balance, but of course, with all this, somehow something is still gonna lack. So, for instance, I'm a family person. Understand? So, out of 4 of my siblings, I'm the first, and my both parents are still alive, and because of the kind of person I am, I love spending time with the family, and also with the way I was brought up. I grew up with my uncle, my father's immediate, second immediate younger brother, who is an army officer in my country. So he's actually my namesake. So I started living with him in Kaduna, which is one of the northern regions in Nigeria. From there, we migrated to Lagos. So while living with him, he left when I was in my primary 1. And I think he went for this peacekeeping in Liberia. And from there, he had this army stuff, like that called him, and he went to the US. So I never saw him till I was in primary 5. So that's like from primary 1 to primary 5, that's like 5 or 4 years. So it made me miss him so much that I never wanted to be an army officer as well, because my primary school then was an army school. Usually when you start from there, it's expected that you also go to army secondary school, and from there probably you enroll in the NDA program, which makes you an army officer tomorrow also. So I'm a family person, and it hurts me so much knowing the fact that I'm staying far away from my family. And I'm very much passionate about research, and it is my passion that keeps me going. It is my passion that makes me not to relent. So I think I've got that covered because of how passionate I am to make contribution to make the world a better place, and also to lay a legacy in such a way that people could remember me for something positive tomorrow. So I don't think that is going to be affected in any way, because I'm very way motivated. And I promised my mom I want to get to the apex of this academia. So I don't have something to pull me down tomorrow. Even if challenges come, I'll definitely find a way to work it out. Then for my family, I'm still single. Yeah. So basically, I just talk to them. Sometimes we do a video call because they stay in Enugu and I stay in Akwa Ibom State. So we do video call. Last week, I got a 1-week leave, temporary leave. So I had to just travel down to the east as well and spend the week with them. And I'm back. on Sunday. That's a few days back. I returned and we continued from where we stopped. So I just try as much as possible to balance everything, and also to know that all these things are important. I'm chasing my passion because of how motivated I am and what I want to contribute to the world. Then I have a family that are looking up to me, and that would want me not to overstress myself, but at the same time make a positive impact in their own lives as well. So I also try to remember that whatsoever it is that I'm doing it because of myself and them as well. Then working in the hospital, well, the only reason why I started working in the hospital was because of the program I'm currently running. It's not like it's not an internship program, but basically it's more like one could liken it to be an internship program. So in my country is known as NYSC. You understand? So it's known as NYSC. I don't know if you probably heard anything about NYSC before. Have you?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, so
what is it?
It's a more like a 1 year program you do to serve your country. You understand? So to serve your country and offer your services to your country. So if you're into the police force, if you're into the military, you don't do that. But if you're just a civilian in the country and you finish school tomorrow, it's like a mandatory program that you do just to be able to serve your country and contribute your quota, I guess, to the well-being. It's more like a national integration program that is organized by the government of our country. So it's known as National Youth Service Corps. And that's NYSC, National Youth Service Corps. So it's more like a 1 year program. So that's what I'm currently doing. So because as a pharmacist, in order to be able to render my own services, I choose to work in the hospital, and that is why I'm currently working in the hospital. So I think I'll be finishing my 1 year program by next month. That's February.
Oh. Okay. You're almost done.
Yeah, so when I'm done, I will have to go back to the academia, that's the University of Nigeria, and continue. But doing what I'm doing right now, the NYSC program, it doesn't stop me from running the program I'm also doing in UNN, because that's University of Nigeria, because most of, with the pandemic, most things are done virtual. And most of my research as well is conducted virtual using the computer. That is why I'm a computer chemist.
Yeah, that's very beneficial in this day and age.
So it's very beneficial, exactly. So that's how I try to balance things.
Okay, that's really good. You can hear the strong sense of family when you speak about it, and it's been evident in our conversation. And I like to hear that you are balancing it. But you said it's hard. It's really hard.
Very hard.
Sometimes
very hard.
When something's got to give, and one of these things suffer. But it's always just trying to pick yourself up again and just restabilize it. So as we come to the close of our conversation, our very interesting conversation, I always just like to ask the final question in terms of a little golden nugget for somebody who's listening and has heard of your journey and your story and is interested in the route that you took, or just anything, just some closing words in terms of what would you say to someone who's interested in your field or in the type of research that you're doing?
Okay. First of all, let me say, for someone who is facing challenge going to school or being educated, I want to first of all say that nothing is impossible. The only thing that is impossible is the word that exists, impossible, which is mostly used for self-expression. So I just want the person to keep, if you're out there and you're listening to me and you're interested in going to school or you want to get educated, first of all, you have to keep a positive mindset and see that it is possible. The war has to be won in your heart first. So, aside from my mom and the motivation her story poses to me. When I left Lagos after staying with my uncle, because it was rough when my uncle left. My uncle left and I was with the wife, and suddenly the wife changed and started maltreating me. I back then in primary school, I was, if anybody from Nigeria would know who Tinubu is, he's currently one of the top politicians in Nigeria, but then he was the Lagos State governor, and I was under his scholarship in primary school. So, but getting to my primary 6, my aunt refused to get my certificate exam fund, which was 600 naira as at then. That was in 2003. She refused to pay for it. My uncle was not around then. And we came back for Christmas that year. And because it's been long, I saw my parents. I left my parents at the age of 6. And I never saw them until I was around 12 years old. Not even for once did I see them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the extent I stayed away from home. I stayed with my family. And this woman, all of a sudden, she just changed. She started hating. I don't know why, but I know probably then I don't know what just happened, but I know she just stopped because a lot of things. She would get some leave and ask me to be selling them in the barracks, like for me to hawk in the barracks, and not like the money is not there. So I don't understand whether she sees it as a way of punishing me for something I don't know what I did. So, but back then, I just kept on. I don't know. I was a child, but I just kept on believing that everything was going to be fine. So while leaving, each time I leave to go and hawk those leaves that I used for cooking in the barracks, I just take a piece of book with me. At the end of the day, I think I climb one tree or so, go through my books, come back, and it didn't stop me from reading. So yes, I understand. I was a kid. I didn't even know what I was doing, and I'm glad it helped me today. But so when we came back 2003, my parents saw the way I was, both physically, psychologically, and everything, and requested that I spend Christmas with them. And the woman, my uncle's wife, while going home, going back to Lagos, she left me and went and told the husband that my parents seized me. So, which was a different story. She never came for me. After my junior secondary school, which my mom also finished, there was no hope for me to go to school because there was no money to train me. So I was asked to go and stay with my uncle who lives in Onuku city to start business with him. Not like start business, like to work under him and learn business. So I was there, and someday I got a call from my dad that he was employed by the university as a security staff. So he gave me a lot of hope. We never saw it coming. And he asked me to come back, that my school uniform for senior secondary school has already been sewed. I never anticipated I was ever going to be educated anymore. I gave up as at then, but I still wanted to go to school. So if this could happen to me, and yet today I'm a graduate, I'm done with my master's degree, and I have interest in pursuing a PhD program, then I don't think anyone could give up. What it takes is your interest. So if you're out there and you're listening to me and you feel like giving up, you shouldn't, because your dream matters a lot. And you're on earth to fill a hole in this space. You're not just there because you're just there. There's a reason why you're born. You're not just born to just exist. There's a particular hole in the sphere of the universe that you're actually feeling. So then, as regards your interest, well, if you have interest in computational chemistry, it's a very good thing. What computational chemistry does is that it reduces cost in drug discovery. It reduces cost in studies, because all you do is virtual study and simulation, even though it is very important for you, whatever thing you get out of the dry lab, you also try it in the wet lab. So, but what computational chemistry does is that gives you an insight of what you're expecting, what you should actually expect when you go into the wet lab. It might not necessarily be true, but it makes you not to waste your time. It makes you not to waste your money. So computational chemistry is good, but most importantly, I want you to follow your dreams. I want you to follow your passion. I want you to never give up on what it is that you dream of. And that is my message for you. Thank you.
Wow, what a story. Thank you for letting us know that story of how you rose against all the odds, and here you are. That is so inspirational. It gave me goosebumps, actually, because, you know, like you said, where you have a sole purpose. Sometimes you don't know, but then things tend to happen, and then it's like, oh, this is why I'm here. And there are going to be people or things that might try to stop you or might work against you, but I think you just got to try to be as positive as possible. And that's easier said than done, of course. But just hearing your story, it really touched my heart. And I am so grateful that you have been so open and so honest and just kind of laid it out all on the table for us to just hear about you. And I appreciate that. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anne. I really appreciate at least for giving me the platform to talk about myself and what I do.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I am so glad that we got to have you on today. And I'm sure a lot of people will be inspired by everything that you've said and will learn a lot with our whole conversation. And to everybody else who is listening, thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of the Root of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E. Until next time, goodbye.